How's that? Can you hear me now? Still no audio? What is going on? It says there's audio. You can hear me? Man, that was touch and go. Are you guys messing with me? This is weird because the chat window's over here, but I can see myself over there. Weird system. Well, here we are, coming to you live from beautiful, sunny Chico, California. Home of the what's it home of? The National Yo-Yo Museum, as a matter of fact. Isn't that exciting? I'm doing good. Rushback 99. I don't know who you are, but I know who you are. So who the hell? We work together, I think. Elvin, how you doing, man? Here's a animation related question. What do you guys think of dryer sheets? There's mine. Oh, you're a modeling student. Okay. I you seem to have a inside can you see my arm tattoos? Woo. Thanks, Paul. All my life I've had this, like, even as a young child, I smelled like an old man. I could never shake it. And then I discovered bounce dryer sheets. Never been happy. Last week, for those of you who missed last week, it was a thrill ride. I animated a walk. What do they call that? A vanilla, one of those vanilla walk cycles. Do this. Here it is. This isn't the actual one. This is one I just had kind of already prepared, baked in the oven, as it were. All right. So I went through the whole thing of, you guys can't see my, can you guys see my whole screen? Can you see my graph editor down here? I never have too much coffee, ever. Let's just make that clear. I actually, I'll be even more direct. I've never, ever had enough coffee. How's that? It's cropped. Yeah, it's cropped. What is going on with my picture-in-picture? It's lame. Bear with me for 1 second. Oh, display capture. That, oh. Oh, dear. That's me. That. This on the. Yeah, it should display it all. Is it really cropped for reals? Yeah, it doesn't show that it's cropped. Yeah. So too, Victor. But it shows the whole thing in OBS. Crop none. All right, I'm gonna manually crop it. It's gonna be amazing. New window. How's that? I don't know what I'm doing. Why do I just have it blow black like that? Where's my executive? Oh, there it is. I got it. Still no. Yeah, no. What if we did this? Ooh, I think I'm onto something now, you guys. See, I don't only just smell like an old man, I behave like one. It's resizing itself. There's that. Okay, okay. I think we're onto something. Why don't we just do that? What's wrong with that? Huh? Can you see that? Is that all right? I'm just going to pretend everybody can see what I can see. How's that? It's worked for me for that last little while. The streaming adventures. Okay, so what were we talking about? Dryer sheets. So last week I animated a walk cycle, and one of you, my mic sensitivity is a bit low. You can't hear me very well. Hang on. Ooh, is that better? Oh, so many things to think about. Yeah? What if I was just did this? Is that better? All right, so last week we did a walk cycle, really boring stuff, 24 frame walk cycle, starting with, you know, our contact poses on 1 and 25, gives us 24. My attack has been slow for years, Victor. Frame 13 is the other contact pose, and then we had these, whatever you call them. Every 3 frames, we go contact, low, passing, high, contact, low, passing, high, contact. So that gives us this wonderful walk cycle in all its splendor. Really something. But one of you said, hey, how do you convert a walk cycle to a cycle to walking in universal space? And I said, well, there's not enough time in this class to get into that. So let's get into let's do it next. Not really class. What is it? It's a stream. There's not enough time in this stream to show you, so let's do it in the next stream. The truth was is I didn't know. And it gave me some time to learn. I didn't really learn, but I'm working on it. But let's dig into it together. Maybe we'll figure it out. All right, so the first thing that I do when I'm doing a walk cycle and I want to convert it to a walk through universal space or world space is I can't just have a 24 frame cycle because it's just going to end after 24 frames. So I'm really only going to walk about 2 feet, and that's not enough. So first thing I do is I select my entire rig. Oh, remember we got to turn all this stuff off up here, all the selection group things, so we only have NURBS curves showing selected. If you don't have this panel, it's probably because it is hidden like that. Just hit this little tiny triangle. It opens up, and then when you open it up, it'll have all these things highlighted. We want to turn everything off except for NURBS curves because that's what our rig is made out of. So that's all we can select. I'm going to select it, the entire rig, and I'm going to go into my graph editor. I know, it looks like math. And I'm going to select curves. I'm going to go all the way up here to the top to post infinity, and I'm going to cycle it into infinity. So if I go into my view menu in the graph editor and turn on infinity, which I do want to do, you will see now that the whole thing cycled into infinity. So if I increase this to, like, let's say 250 frames, my timeline, by this I mean my timeline, and I hit play, it will just play into infinity. That's good. So that's just going to give me more all the time I need to do my walk around thing. Now, there are no keys in here. So I can't really do much with it if I don't have any keys in there, because if I go in here and set a key, if I want to make any changes at all to it, I can't, because as soon as I drop a key down here, it breaks the cycle and it's a mess and everything sucks. So I don't want to do that. Instead, what I'm going to do is I'm going to bake it out. Hit me up if you guys have any questions at any time. I can see you. And so now we're going to bake it out. So with everything still selected and the cycle on, I'm going to take my little mouse up here to edit, select edit, go down here to keys, bake simulation. I'm going to open up the dialog box. Here it is. Awesome. In this dialog box, I'm going to sample my cycle. So I'm going to bake all these keys for these 250 frames. Now, bake works only from the time, I believe, that you have on your timeline. So it's going to bake 250 frames. If you want more frames than that, You can go to 1,000 frames. You can go to, well, you get it. You can bake as many frames as you want. I'm just baking 250 because that's probably all I'm going. And I'm going to bake it. I'm going to sample it by threes because my walk cycle is basically on threes. Oh, Dennis, you've clearly only ever had one animation mentor in your entire life. Thank you. That's very lovely of you. I'm going to bake by threes, sample by 3, and hit apply, and then we wait. Just like when you really bake things. Wait. And there we have it. It's all keyed out. Lovely red. My mind down. The roast is on. There it is. So now I have keys. Now I got something to work with. So next, what I want to do, you guys probably noticed when you try to get your, when you try to get your character to walk, like what I want to do here, let me back up a bit. What I want to do is animate the character node. You know this thing? Where it goes, everything follows. I want to animate that. I want to animate my character walking, but I don't want to just have my character walking straight. I want my character to like walk around. Something a bit more interesting. Paul, you asked, do I teach the advanced animation course? I do, as a matter of fact. I teach the advanced, the hyper advanced, the ill-informed, the curious. I'm not afraid. You'll notice that because I baked this whole thing out that I have keys on this thing. I don't want keys on it because I want it to, I want to be able to animate it. Can't animate it when it's already animated. I'm going to go over here to my channel box, select all the channels, right click, delete, select it. Now, what I was saying about this thing, if I key this thing and I say I want to walk, and here I am walking, and let's say I want to turn, and then I want to walk this way, everything gets goofy. And I slide and nothing's good, and I've got to call my mom and ask her why she even bothered having me in the first place. It just gets super ugly, you know, because if you look at what's actually happening under the hood of this, look in the graph editor, there's the trans Z and the trans X are fighting with each other. So now I'm walking on an angle instead of straightforward, and it gets really stupid and it's really hard to manage. And so we don't do that. We just don't. We're opposed to it. These aren't jokes, Paul. This is serious animation business. So what I'm going to do instead, I'm going to create a curve, and I'm going to attempt, without a net, to constrain the character node to a curve. Now I'm going to need complete silence. It's like juggling chainsaws. So I'm going to go up here to create, and right down here it says curve tools. I'm going to create a CV curve tool. And with my mouse, I'm just going to draw a circle. Yeah. A circle. About there. Here we go. Oops. Oh. You screwed up. Try it again. Curve tools, circle. Here we go. Circle. Ah, it's not really a circle. Close enough. Okay. Oh, don't want to do that. So there's my circle. Lovely. I'm going to select the character node, and I'm going to shift select the circle. I think I got that in the right order. And then I'm going to select constrain up top, the top menu, motion paths attached to motion path. It is. There it is. Now you'll notice when I attach it to the motion path, I get a curve down here in the graph editor. You know, math. And you'll notice my curve, this curve will dictate how fast my character goes. But the first thing I want to do is, you'll notice this curve comes in with a slow in and a slow out and slow in. I don't want that. I want my character to be moving at a constant speed, so that's easy enough. I just set it to linear, just a linear button here. And now when I play it, I'm gonna go really fast. Probably too fast. So I want to slow him down. Well, there's a couple ways I can slow him down. I could, select the last key of this curve. I could move it later in time. I'll slow him. Or I can just decrease the distance between these two. That will also slow him down. And so you asked me, Mark, how do you know how slow to make them? Well, how dare you? I don't. You guys ask the tough questions. I'm just kind of guessing. When I end up baking him out onto this curve, I'm going to have to lock the feet down. And if he's moving too fast, when I lock that foot down, it's going to take too long to peel off the ground, and that leg is going to stretch, and it's going to be a mess. So I need to kind of figure that out. So let's just take a look at the first few frames. I really play a lot with this timeline controller down here to just zoom in to like a shorter period of time. So I don't have to, mess around with 300 frames or whatever. I'm just going to adjust this thing until it sort of feels right. And so I'm just looking at how far that back foot moves. Because I know like once that back foot comes into contact here, I want it to stay there. So as it's starting to push off, it starts to slide. And it doesn't come off the ground until about there, frame 18. That's going to be a long ways for that leg to stretch. So I'm just going to pull this back a little bit. Oh, yeah. Well, I'm Canadian, I know how to animate skating. Rob, who was that? Robin, yeah. I was told that to create a run cycle on a scene like a sidewalk or something that you have to actually anim the rig on the path. I didn't know you could just do that. Oh, well, there's a lot of stuff you didn't know that I know. Well, probably very little. Something about skating. Oh, yeah. Because I'm Canadian. I love to talk about the fact that I'm Canadian, and I grew up on a farm in Canada, which is like the worst place to be in Canada, on a farm. Well, and the worst thing to be is a farm animal because they're outside in the cold. It's so cold there. Once our neighbor's pig barn burned down, and it was horrible because you could hear the pigs screaming. They were trapped inside. It was crazy bad. We heard it at night, but the crazy thing about it was that like for the next 2 weeks, it just smelled like breakfast everywhere. I'd get home from school and my mom would be like, "I'll make pancakes for dinner." It was amazing. But it was sad. It was super sad. You'll notice that you get like this kind of like a lot of this foot sliding stuff. So all I'm trying to do is just I don't want that leg to stretch. I can fix everything else, but I just don't want that. I don't want that leg to stretch. So again, it's a bit of guesswork. A little backslide is okay. So from here, what I'm going to do now is I need to bake this curve first, or sorry, this character node. I need to bake it. I know, trash art. I can't even keep up with my emotions. Maybe this is the one time I've had enough coffee. I'm gonna bake this. So now that this is constrained, I'm just gonna select this character node. I'm gonna do the same thing that I did before with edit, ease, bake simulation. This time, I'll just sample by 1 frame. So it's just going to bake it through on ones. Apply. Here we go. And we wait. Well, this would have been a good time to talk about the breakfast story. Now I got nothing. That sums up my life. My autobiography will just be that story. Here we go. Baked out on ones. Perfect. Now I can delete this curve later, and my character will still walk in a curve. He goes. Let him go. Okay. Just out for a stroll. There's a little turn there. Good enough. We could take that on and on and on. You can keep walking, walking, walking. Now, I don't want him walking on that curve. So now I have to transfer the animation, or not that curve, sorry, on that character control. So I transferred the animation on the curve, character node. Now I got to transfer that animation of the character node onto the parts of my rig that need it the most. And those parts are only the IK business. So I need to put it on the COG and the 2 feet. Everything else is fine because everything else will follow. Everything follows the COG except for the feet. And then the feet. It's a pretty big cup of coffee. You guys ever you guys ever wash your coffee cups? The funny thing about this cup is it used to, for a while, it doubled as my father's earned. And there's still some residue. Mirko, how are you? Aw, so good to see you. Wow, it's a blast from the past. Was it 10 years ago? Huh. Well, thanks for stopping by. I'm honored. So here's how this is going to work. I'm going to create some locators. I'm going to constrain those locators to the feet. I'm going to create 3 locators. Constrain to the feet and the COG. And then I'm going to bake, when they're constrained, the feet and the COG will be the parent. Then I'm going to bake the animation onto those locators. And then I'm going to, once that's baked on, then I'm going to delete the motion off the character node and bake the animation from the locators back to the feet. Now it's crazy. Once again, I'm going to need complete silence. You know what I need? I need somebody here, like with a damp cloth, to just probably a dry cloth, actually. Sweat. Forehead. Because this stuff gets. Okay, so create locator. There it is. Oh. Now you got to make sure under your show menu that locators are indeed showing. Where are they? They're down here somewhere. Right there. So we can see our locators. Great. Now I'm going to size that locator up. Nice big locators are better. And then I'm going to duplicate it, hitting Command. I'm on a Mac because I don't like money. I bought a Mac. And so to duplicate stuff on a Mac, hit Command D. I think on a PC it's Control D or something crazy like that. Or maybe Alt D. I don't know. Hit it twice. And now I have 3 locators. If I go into my outliner, there they are. So beautiful. Now I will select my COG and then Control select just any locator, doesn't matter, but one of them. And I will select constrain parent. I'm going to open the dialog box and make sure that translate and rotate all are both selected. And then easy on my Mac. I love it so much. I'm going to turn off maintain offset and hit apply. And it's going to snap that locator to the middle of the COG. Good, exactly what I want. Next, foot. Outliner, another locator. Oh, I already got that open. Apply, snap, another foot, another locator. Oops. Here's something. You know how I said turn all this stuff off? Well, you have to turn on the little question mark there to be able to select locators. I don't know why it's a question mark. I guess because a locator could stand in for anything. Some of these icons in Maya are weird. I hit apply. Like this little guy down here, like the preferences icon, which is like, it's kind of like that. There was this old show in like the late 60s or 70s called The Prisoner, where this guy was like this prisoner, but didn't know where he was. And there's just these big orbs that would chase him around. And most of the series I remember was just that weird synth. Woo, 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 and him running from like really big balls. Really bad joke in there. But I don't understand this icon. I guess is this guy's running from like this weird kind of gear. I don't know. Anyways, now if I hit play, you'll see that these locators follow along with the feet. Now what I need to do, I need to stop it from playing, I'm going to shift select. I do, Victor. Paul, locators just they're kind of a they're like a they're sort of a stand-in for a lot of stuff. They're just a way to kind of do some sort of low-level base rigging. So they're very, very helpful in a lot of ways. They're kind of a catch-all sort of utility thing. Okay, so I'm going to shift select these locators, all three. Back to keys, bake simulation, still on ones, all good. Hit apply. Once, when I was 9, pardon, that's almost not like that. Okay, so now if, check this out, I can delete these constraints. You see all the locators here have constraints underneath them. So I can just go into my outliner and delete those. Now he's walking on stilts. Now if I select the character node, go over here to the channel box and right click, select all the channels, right click and mute selected, you'll notice that these little things go walking around. So that's what we're going to now. We constrain the locator to the feet and the COG by selecting the COG as the parent, locator's child, smacking them. Oh, Paul, it's in the works. And then baking that out. And now we're going to reverse that constraint by selecting the locators first, constraining the COG. Yeah. So let's do that. Back to frame 1. Man. Locator first, COG second, strain, and locator foot, and locator. Canada is an official bilingual country, meaning that if you want to work in any government position in Canada, you have to speak French and English. I almost said French and Canadian. You have to speak both English and French. It's mandatory in Canada that you learn both languages. But growing up on a farm, I went to a county school, and all of the parents got together, and they actually petitioned and fought and spit, and they got French taken out of the school, which when I was a kid I thought was super cool because everybody hated taking French because it was hard. But as an adult, I'm like dumbfounded that anybody would do that. You know what I mean? No damn way does my kid learn a second language. Huh. A weird stance. I don't think my parents were part of it. They just kind of went along with it. Choosing ignorance is always an odd choice. Anyway, but you're here. I don't know. Okay, so now I have this going on. So if I select the character node, and it's still, you see it's still muted. This guy walks now. Yeah, he's walking. So now what I'm going to do is select the character node as I've done and delete the keys off of it. And then I will select the COG. This is where like everything goes bad. And the 2 feet, not the locators, but the COG and the 2 feet. And schools still teach in Canada. They still teach French because they have to. Just part of it's a bilingual country. Not a bad thing. Where were we? Bake simulation. I'm just gonna do it on ones again. Here we go. When I was 18, I joined the Big Brothers Association. You know how you got the big brothers, little brothers kind of thing. And I had a little brother, and his name was Tyler, lovely 10-year-old kid. But while I was there, they needed chaperones, and I was just a kid myself. I was only 18 years old, but they needed chaperones to take a bunch of like teenage kids like that were from lower socioeconomic families to on a field trip to Montreal. And so I signed up for it. And when I got there, they billeted me with a family that did not speak English. And they had a similar story that I had where they were supposed to learn English, but their family said, no way, my kid is not learning English. So here we were like, products of bigots. That's from two different languages. And we got along great. I don't know how we got along. I couldn't understand them. I had a good time. Okay, now I can get rid of the constraints. This time, because the constraints live in the feet and the COG, I'd have to dig through the rig to find them to delete them. So instead, how I'm going to delete them is I'm just going to select them in the same order that I selected them before. So that being locator first, shift select the COG, constrain, remove target. And that gets rid of the constraint. So I'll do that with all of them. Locator, foot, constrain, remove target. Locator, foot, constrain, target. Now I can select these locators over here in my outliner. Or in Canada, they actually call that an outliner. A typical misconception that Americans have about Canadians is they say Canadians say oot, but they don't. They say oat, like what you eat, like oatmeal. The oat. I gotta go oat side. I'm learning French by Rosetta Stone. That's great. I did a commercial for Rosetta. I animated a commercial for Rosetta Stone one time. Still can't speak any other language other than English, though. Didn't do me any good. Blender, Paul, I've heard really, really good things. Like they've really, really stepped up their game. And it's free. Not really a secret. Oh, okay. Now let's see if this worked. I'm kind of nervous. Yes! Woo! I don't even have sunglasses. This is a picture of my daughter and a cat. So, Oh yeah, and this is like a very noble looking Santa. It's as much nobility as $3 can buy you. Okay, now the trick. So we got that, and that didn't take long. I mean, if I wasn't distracting myself with all this nonsense, I probably would have been done by 9:20. That was a big cat, Victor. It was a really big cat. It was one of those Carol Baskin cats. Okay. Now the foot slides. So what you have to remember with the feet is that you're really just worried about the translation Z if you're in Canada or the UK, Z if you're in America. And so we'll just select one foot here and we'll go into the translation Z curve. And let's narrow our timeline down for the time being. And that foot comes off the ground on frame 2. So it's just as easy as pulling that down. It's a little bit of work. Make sure you're always working. Oh my God, I can't stress this enough. Work with these auto tangent curves. You go into your preferences. Just make sure you're always set to, unless you're blocking out, you're set to steps, of course. But when you get into finessing your animation, please use auto tangents. They're just the best. Any other tangent just doesn't compare. It's like bounce dryer sheets. There's just no need to go anywhere else. Use auto tangents to avoid that old man smell. So when the foot comes into contact, right there, we can actually go here to 15. Want to lock that down too. So frame 15 is where the foot comes into contact. Going to lift off right about, we'll say frame 27. So I'll delete all that. I'll just drag this down. See what that looks like. Boom. Oh, so good. Little bit of a stretch there. If that's too much of a problem, you can go in and finesse the heel raise right here. But that feels pretty good. Curious question. What's the best rig you ever got to animate with? Oh. That's a great question. I really liked, I would say it's not really the best rig so much. I would say it's the best sort of, I guess it's the same thing. I was going to say it's the best system. So I think the best character animation rig system that I worked with was at Sony Animation. They had, their rigs were just lousy with controls, like just covered and covered and covered in controls. But they had a really nice UI where you could custom pick the controls you'd like to use and then hide everything else. And so what that meant was as the production moves along, the director finds things that he likes. And then you're able to sort of pare down. So the first couple months of production is kind of it's a bit of a disaster. Well, it's all a disaster. But you're just trying to find what works and what doesn't, and then when you get into deeper into production and start bringing more people on board, because of course you're blowing through deadlines, because you're bringing more people on, you're able to onboard people more quickly because you can say like whatever. And it's just that sort of robustness of those rigs was really, really good. It's, I mean, high-end studios are just going to give you better stuff because they have 2.5 animation TVs for every animator. If you want something that doesn't exist, they'll just give it to you. Pretty good. And it's amazing what they can do. Excuse me for 1 second. My art. Come in. Don't go anywhere. Weta Digital also had really good rigs. Their rigs are, because they deal so much in motion capture, or what they like to call it, performance capture. They're different in that they're not as typically, now they could do this obviously because people that have working there are brilliant. But they're dealing with visual effects mostly, so they're not so cartoony, so the rigs aren't quite so bendy. There's not as many super bendy options. Here's a question: who knows what this is? Talking my pancreas. 1 second. That's a good answer, Victor, but you're wrong. It's actually called a plectrum. Oh! I think you're a repeat customer, Lemon Melon. You're stalking me. I love it. So 100 messages today. Restream just congratulated me. Do you guys see this? Are you able to see this? Congratulations, you've reached 100 messages today. We're only 40 minutes in. We're gonna break all kinds of messages records. So that's basically how we do this. You just now have to go through and find, and I always just start with 1 foot. I don't necessarily put my best foot forward, but I'll start with 1 foot. I'll just find where it contacts. Have you ever disappointed with some of your CG Spectrum students? I mean, most of them are good animators, modelers, right? The students you're asking me, hang on, Victor, if you misjudged before baking and now you're getting knee pops because the walk was too fast, would you have to do everything over again? Oh my gosh, that is such a great question. Why don't we see what we would do? What do you think? Let's actually just do that. I mean, we got time, right? We've got another hour. Ray and AP, am I ever disappointed with my students? I don't really, that's a good question. I get it. No, I don't really dabble in that, in being disappointed. It's hard to do this. And I don't mean it's just hard to animate, which it is. But let me Control Z my way out of here. We sign up for these things, and even that's kind of hard, because I know, like, when I decided to be an animator and I went back to school to be an animator, there was no shortage of people who lined up to tell me I was making a mistake. I don't think they were right. I quite enjoy this, but lots of people were eager to tell me, this is a mistake. You shouldn't do this. It's a hard thing. There's lots of in any of this kind of stuff. There's lots of self-doubt from students, and so everybody's grappling with different things. And basically, the thing that everybody's grappling with is a lack of motivation. And the problem with the lack of motivation is it's often characterized as lazy. But there's no such thing as lazy. That's the secret. Lazy is just like this social construct that's meant to shame us because we don't feel like doing the things other people think we should do, right? Empty the dishwasher. I don't want to. You're lazy. I'm not actually lazy. It's just boring. But this is a bigger deal because you sign up for it and you pay for it and you get involved in it, and then suddenly you stink at it, and you stink at it for an extended period of time. And that's really, really hard. And the last thing somebody who sucks at something needs from someone like me is to tell them I'm disappointed. It's not about me at all, about being appointed or disappointed. Is that a thing, being appointed? I mean, being appointed is a thing, but not in terms of like the opposite of disappointed. I mean, I get excited when you guys are excited. Hey, Sean, nice to see you. Oh man, I enjoy the epiphanies, but everybody learns differently. Everybody learns at a different. I always make the joke that I learn in step keys because I just flatline. When I flatline, that's fine. The important thing for someone who's learning, which is all of us really, but for somebody who's actually becoming formally educated in something, the best thing you can do is to understand that it ebbs and flows. That you're going to have times where you love it, you want to do it, and you're going to have times where the last thing you want to do is to crack open Maya to get into that, and that's okay. There's a difference between being disappointed and being disengaged, I guess. Being disappointed is fine, as long as you understand that it's temporary, and as long as you know that there's strategies to get you over it. And the strategies that I use when I get when my motivation takes a hit is I just animate something short. I walk cycle for 24 frames, and then I'll just go and never get up. Mirko, on a side note, have you checked out Alan? Oh, Animbot. I have actually. Yeah, the Animbot tools are really, really good. I never incorporated them, and I don't know why. I guess just because it just fell off my radar. Vanessa, how are you? How long did it take for me to be comfortable with the graph editor and Maya in general? Oh yeah, no, that's a great question. I have to tell you, in all honesty, I was a professional animator. Hell, I was an animation supervisor on a feature film, and I still never opened the graph editor. I had this kind of thing where I'm like, well, this is what matters, which is true. Which is true. The graph editor does not supersede the work. And I would only crack open the graph editor if there was something that I couldn't figure out, or there was something there was some weird anomaly in my animation. I had to go in and, sometimes you get two keys that are crumpled onto each other or something like that. But I just stayed out of it. And I remember I was working with the animation director from Fox, and he came and sat down. He came and sat down with me, and we're working on. I was an anim supervisor at a studio called Rainmaker. Yeah, it's my dog drinking. It's a very salacious sound coming from off screen. And he said, "Open the graph editor." I'm like, "Oh, really?" And the funny thing, when we made Garfield and Garfield 2, the graph editor only had one undo. So you do a bunch of stuff, and then you would try to back out of it, but we were using Lightwave, and the graph editor in Lightwave only had one undo. I just never messed with it. So to get around to your question, Vanessa, when I started teaching, actually, back in 2008, I got a job teaching for Animation Mentor, which was my first foray into this teaching stuff, and I had to learn it. And so I started to really understand the graph editor a lot better, and I became a way better animator. And I mean, at that time I was working, I was working at Weta Digital on Avatar, and I wasn't animating on Avatar, I was in the layout department, but it was funny that I got that far ahead of my career having never opened the graph editor. I just didn't like the look of it. It just freaked me out. I didn't get into animation to look at a graph, It was weird. Now it's a friend of mine. So when I look at the graph editor like this, it's just a mess. It doesn't make any sense to me, obviously. But when I go through it and understand it, I do it, controller by controller, piece by piece, channel by channel. I'll offset channels, I'll mess with channels. I think I'm in a pretty good spot with it. I like it, I recognize it, but it doesn't freak me out anymore, and it's my friend. That said, it's just a tool to speed up workflow, and that's what it did for me. Sped up my workflow. I was quite successful with that. So take that for what it's worth. I highly recommend you develop a long-term, loving, kind, challenging relationship. What were we doing? Oh, we're gonna do this badly on purpose. Okay, so here we have our walk cycle. Vanessa, I hope that answered your question somewhat. I'm gonna make another curve. Yeah, Sean, once you get it, it totally clicks. So create curve tools, CV curve tools. Uh-oh. Nope, good. Thought I was making my curve tool up in the sky. Kind of zigzag this thing around a little bit. Maybe not that shape. How's that? There we go. Like a three-legged something. Right, now I will select that thing. Character thing. Shift select the curve. I don't know if it'll let me constrain, actually. Let's try it. Nope. See how it didn't let me constrain it? It's because I had keys on it already. Vanessa, the way to ease or fix your intimidation factor with the graph editor is just take it one channel at a time. When I'm doing a walk cycle, for example, I'll select the COG and I'll just go into the translation Y, and I'll just work on. And I spend a lot of time, honestly, just going, what the hell does this even do? Until like you just start to get used to the fact, like it's a green curve, it's a green translation curve, that's vertical. The red one, that's typically side to side. If it's a red rotation channel, it's typically bending over and backwards, things like that. But yeah, man, it's an odd looking. I tell you, the very first time when I was learning, I was doing some traditional animation. That's what I was trained in, and I did a little bit of work, but I sucked at it. I worked on this TV show called the Christmas Orange, and I stunk. So that's when I went back to learn CG. And as soon as I saw the graph editor, I was like, no, I'm out. I'm out. But you know, got onto it after a while. Okay, so it's not going to let us constrain to that path because we have keys on it. So we got to go in here and just knock all those keys off. Done. Now, should snap right to it. Kablam. There it is. Now he's going to be walking really fast to get all this way. Hey, do you ever zoom out and you lose stuff like this? Kind of cuts off. That happens to be your it's in your camera settings. It's called a clipping plane. So if you select your camera, see over here, there's a little camera icon. Move my mouse around a lot so you see it. Select that, then go into the attribute editor, and you'll go into perp shape, and you will see clipping planes. See, it's set to 10. I did that because of another scene file, but you want to select 0.001, I think. Boom. And this thing you can add a couple zeros to too. This is it. Now watch how fast he goes. Whoa! I don't know if that's a fixable problem. That's too fast. Do we try it? We see how we would fix something that's moving that fast? I mean, the first thing I would do is let's get it closer, because that's ridiculous. We're not going to be able to fix that. So we need to find this curve again. See how I can't see that curve now that it's supposed to have made? See, not there. I need that curve. So I'll go back into, with that curve selected, I'll go back into the attribute editor for the curve. And if I go to motion path, down here at the bottom, if I select, there's my curve. So again, you select your curve. If you want to see your motion path curve in the graph editor, go all the way over here to motion path, select the word select, or the button that says select. I'm going to make that a linear curve, so it stays at a constant speed. And I'm going to greatly reduce how far he's traveling. I'm going to zoom. Try to zoom in. There we go. Ooh, look what my clipping plane did. What that's all about. Yeah. Now I'm going to, let's just see how far he's moving. Oh yeah, he's sliding quite a bit. Let's, I'm going to take that down. Oh, look, you select the, that's something I did not know. Do the same thing if you just select the, you can find this motion path if you just select the character thing. Okay, that's going to be, all right, Miracle, let's fix that clipping plane. That's going to be distracting. Take out one of these zeros. There we go. Glad you're here. I taught you well. All right, so now we will bake the animation into this thing. Increase, bake all 250 frames. So select the character node, go to edit, keys, bake, and we wait. My mom, growing up, used to drive our school bus. There's a little factoid for you. It'll all be in the final exam, so you should be taking notes. It was in the winter, and we were, again, farm kids, and so we were always the first ones on the bus, which was like at 6:30 in the morning. It was so cold. I remember sitting on the bus and just scraping designs in the frost on the inside of the windows on my way to school. Nah, it's not very interesting. Okay, so now I can delete curve. And we still have the walk. Yep. It's not sliding that much. I hope I messed it up enough. Now I will create my locator. There we go. Turn on my question mark. I'm going to size up that locator. Duplicate it. Open my outliner. We got exams now, Sean. Try to keep up. My clipping plane's still messing with me, but whatever, I don't care. Select my COG. Control select the locator. Constrain. Bam. Foot. Next locator. Foot. Next locator. Now select the locators. 1, 2, 3. 3. Edit bake. Here we go. This really is edge of your seat madness. I did not oversell that. I just didn't. I would never. If I promise edge of your seat madness, that's damn well what I'll deliver. Okay, so now those are baked. Good. Now I can delete the keys off of this thing, the character node. And it still will walk. Uh-oh, nope. Oh yeah, there it goes. There they go. Look at that. It's weird, like spiders. A little creepy. A little creepy. Now, we reversed our selection. So locator, shift select foot, by locator, shift select locator, shift select foot. Fool me once. Apply. And same with the COG. There it goes. Good. Okay. Now what do we do? What do we do? We bake it. But, oh, we got to select them first. We bake it. 1, 2, 3. Edit bake. My brother drove my school bus too. And so did my dad. I was never allowed to drive a school bus. Doesn't seem really fair. I think I'd be a good school bus driver. Here's a funny factoid. I actually flipped onto the roof of my father's brand new Toyota Starlet 8 hours after I got my driver's license. Flipped it. True story. That was like 300 years ago. I still have not lived that down. Anytime I go back home to Red Deer, where I'm from is Red Deer, which is what we nicknamed Dead Rear because it was a bit more accurate. But every time I go home, that's what everybody talks about. Remember that time you flipped your dad's car right after you got your driver's license? God. Well, thank you very much. Okay, now, hey, Kirsty Graham, it's good to see you. Now, I got to get rid of the constraints on the feet. So, locator, foot, constrain, move target. Locator, shift select foot. Remember, we have to select them in the same order, or else everything is bad. We'll never get what we want. Okay, now I can select these locators in that outliner. Remember, Canadian outliner. And now should have a walk across the screen. Oh, hey, Shyla, it's good to see you. Oh, you're amazing. Man, what a nice crew. How did I get so lucky? All right. Let's see what we can do about locking these feet down. Let's start with this one. Like where that sits. Translation Z or Z. And you want to keep that lock down until we'll say 15. Let's see what happens here. Okay, so now we need to move the translation Z on that foot. You got to have that plateau, flat line here. It's gonna be bad. Okay, but here's what we're gonna try. Now, oh yeah, it's definitely lifting off. So it's bad enough to pop. There's a couple of things we can try. First thing I'm going to try is just seeing if I can get the raise heel to go up enough to fix it. And I kind of hope I can. And even if I can, I'll pretend that I can't. But I'm just going to try it first. That's the first place I'd go to is this raise heel. So we'll go here to 15. Bring it up. Oh yeah, we can, but it makes for a really ugly foot, doesn't it? Really does. So we can do a little bit of that. I'm going to delete these keys because here's my plateau. Let's bring this timeline out a bit. Not my plateau, I'm sorry. Here's the peak. There's the peak of my raise heel. And so I don't need these keys in between because I'm going to lift this one up. And then it's going to be all goofy there. Let's do that. It looks like, oh, because the raise heel's working there too. Okay, so we want to keep that. Let's see. I want to zero out. It's nice we dove into this. I need to also zero out the rotation X. Right there, it should be zeroed. So, go. I could have also dragged this key over. There we go. So that puts flat on the ground. Now it's going to go pop off really, really quickly as it's coming up. So let's say we got that going on. Well, there's a couple things we can do. Oh, Charlotte, good tip. That is a good tip. We can totally do that. A little bit of toe bend at the end of it. We can cheat the translation Z a little bit if we wanted to. Get in here and just have a bit of a slide. Like I might go like to frame 12, and this little button over here in the graph editor, that's an insert key button. I can just middle mouse on the whatever you call that thing, curve, animation curve. We can just lift this one a little bit. We get just a quick little 2-frame slide. You'd probably sell that. I don't love it though. Doing that. Or we could play around a little bit with the translation Y, which I don't love doing that either. That looks kind of weird. Play the translation Z on the COG, but I hate that. Really don't want to do that. Then what I would do, select this foot, back to the translation. So let me just say this. I would look at all those options, but once my COG is where I want it to be and it's all good, then I don't want to go back to it and then back to I don't like jumping back and forth from COG to feet to COG to feet, literally just chasing it back and forth. So once I have my COG set and it's doing what I want it to do, fine. I just want to, then I can just concentrate on the feet. So I'm really determined to solve this problem by looking at the feet. Here's one thing that I noticed when I look at this translation Z curve here. I notice that it does this big jump right here between 15 and 16. So then I think to myself, what if we just raise this up? Meaning the foot's going to be further forward. There we go. So I'll just adjust it there. And then once it hits here, I can delete this key. And so it's going to come off the ground a little more smoothly, not quite so fast. And to that point, I'll just keep going. We're at contacts again, which is right. We'll say 26. this. Just slow out a little bit. So it's a bit of work, but hopefully you'll get paid for it by the hour. And then we can also keep that raise heel, because you'll notice that that heel. One of the things that people miss with animation is this line here, which is the heel. I see it on walk cycles a lot, is the angle of the bottom of the foot. See how it's like, well, this is risky using grease pencil. It sometimes crashes, so bear with me. If it crashes, don't look at my desktop. That's messy. So I have a line here. Supposed to have a line. A line. Cancel. Oh. Anyways. Well, it's good I didn't really have any expectations for grease pencil anyhow. So there's this line here, and I want that line, as everything's backwards, as that foot's coming up off the ground. I did key it, Victor. I did key it. Look, you can see it right there in my timeline. There's a little blue square there. That's the key. When the heel comes off the ground, I want that angle of the bottom of the foot to continue moving. A lot of times I'll see with students animation that, I'm trying to figure out how this camera works, that when that foot peels off, it'll stop and then just kind of go straight. So it'll go, and then there'll be and it's a hard thing to spot, because it'll look like the foot's moving fine, and if you put a motion trail on the foot, it looks like it's moving fine. But if that line going forward doesn't continue forward, there'll be like this weird stiffness to your animation, and it's a hard thing to spot. So once you spot it, though, you can't unsee it. So I'll just go in here and I'll manage that raise heel curve as well, meaning that as it comes up off the ground, keep it going. And then, Shyla, like what you said with the raised toe, we'll just drag it a little bit more. And then you can just clean this stuff up. There you go. And then when it makes the next contact, back to the translation Z. Makes contact here. Contact's going to keep until looks like about frame 38. So now, because I like where it is on frame 38, I'm going to see if I can't, how far I can bring it forward. And then I'll have to see how far I can bring it backward until this line plateaus. And then I'll go back into the raise heel. And I'll raise heel. And I just clean this stuff up. Cleanup's no fun in any profession. Really animate. I that's probably not true. Like a cleanup hitter would be a good job. A cleanup hitter. With animating the foot, would your characters, humans, most of the time wear shoes so you don't have to worry about the individual toes? Oh, yes. Almost always. I don't even know, Kirsty, I don't even know if I've ever... I really want to get a Cintiq Miracle. That'll be my next big purchase after my diamond studded tiara. I don't know that I've ever animated toes. Must have at some point. Creature toes for sure, but yeah, for for biped characters, no, I don't know that I have. So yeah, I guess Victor, here's what I would say. If none of this worked and if it was just stretching too far, then yeah, you just have to go back and do it all again. But you can see it's pretty fast to knock that stuff out. It wasn't really that big of a deal. Excuse me, to just remake it. That's that. Any questions? Hey, you guys want to see my suplex? I always bring up my suplex. I'm so proud of it. So here's what I'd say. With this, I like to show this to students because it incorporates a lot of what animation supervisors and directors and other animators are looking for. And I think it's important to understand that your audience, your current audience, is other animators. Your audience is not movie audience or television audience or game audience. Your audience is yeah, Sean, you've seen the suplex. Your audience is other animators. So what other animators want to see is convincing performances, right? So there's certain things that we all know as animators that are tricky to do. Physical interactions between characters are super tricky. Compelling performances are hard, right? I see a lot of student demo reels where, you know, the overlapping action works and the timing's fine, and you know, it looks like they've spent time with the arcs and the spacing's okay. There's a couple. Usually, I find there's a couple issues. But it's a lot of this stuff is just kind of like boilerplate sort of stuff. What's up, Cletus? You missed all the best stuff. You missed the breakfast story and the school bus story. The photo of my daughter with a cat. So you're a lot of what you're trying to do as an animator. You're trying to set your work aside from all the other animators. And that's a tricky thing. You're trying to make compelling work, and that's a tricky thing because it's hard to quantify what makes compelling work, especially when you're dealing with other animators who are kind of like, they don't want to like your work because it will make them feel bad about their work. If that makes sense. So they're already kind of inclined to poo-poo your stuff. It's not that great. So there's a few things like showing convincing weight is really good, but showing convincing weight is better if you show somebody that if you show some sort of thought process. So you're always looking for you know, subtext or that sort of thing. Like if you can make the character seem like they're thinking. So that's always an interesting challenge. But with some of the other things that were I have no idea what you guys are talking about. Your friend thinks this is an AI lesson. What's an AI lesson? Anyway, so I like to animate things that are hard to animate on a technical level, but also have some kind of an emotion to them that we can all sort of look at and be drawn to. So this is kind of a good example, and it's really short. What do I call it? Suplex. I'm not even going to save this file. Yeah, don't save. That's how brazen I am. Artificial intelligence. That's what I thought, but then I thought, well, maybe it's a because there was a school in Vancouver called AI. Wasn't it called AI? Animation. Oh, Charlotte, that's too long. 2 minutes is too long. Okay, so this is about 40 frames long. Okay, so here's the final. Super simple. Well, kind of deceptively simple. So the ingredients of this that work, and then when I show other animators and they go, "Oh, that's super fun," is the complexity of having two characters interact with each other because there's constraints involved and there's all other things like that involved. There's also the texture and the timing. You've heard me talk about. Thank you, Shala. You've heard me talk about texture to timing, and what all texture and timing means is if everything's moving at the same rate, it sort of looks like your character's like floating through space or underwater or something. And so you break up the timing so certain things are moving at different rates than other things in your animation. And you're always looking, or I'm always looking as an animator, you should always be looking for opportunities for overlapping action is big because things that overlap through movement are always better to look at. And you're also looking for texture in your timing. So when I first animated this suplex, it was very basic. And it had the female character lifting up the male character. And it was just this, wait, does she go? It was just this easy, it was very evenly timed. She just went like, and then if you look at the, if you go in here and look at the curves, there is a section in here where elbows are all janky, which means I need to switch my evaluation mode. I won't get into that. So there's this big long section here, and you can see where I have a key pose here on frame 14. It doesn't have any legs all of a sudden. And then I have another key pose here on frame 26. Those used to be very, very much closer together. So she just kind of went, it was all sort of one movement. And if we look at her COG rotation X, you can see how it goes very, very, sort of hangs here, and then it speeds up right there. Well, that used to be, this curve used to sort of look more like that, which meant she just went, right, one movement. With my 2020, you don't need to select the insert key button. Oh, just like the curve, right click. Oh, and an insert key will pop up. All right, thank you, Robin. What about 2019? Probably the same. So what I did is when I did this and I first watched it and it was nice and simple, it looked good. Arcs are good. The overlap was good. Everything worked. But it was just kind of dull. It just was like, yeah, I banged it out in about 4 hours and should have saved it. But it was just kind of like, well, yeah, it was just kind of boring. And one of the things I've learned over the years is that even when my animation looks good, I still challenge myself to make it look better. Always. I like to refer to my animation sort of workflow strategy as leave no stone unturned. It's never, can always be better. And it's true. There's no pose that's ever been made that can't be improved upon. There's no animation that can't be improved upon. That's why there's so many levels of there's such a hierarchy to getting your animation improved, is because everybody who comes across, if they know what they're talking about, they're just going to improve it. They have to be open to that. You also have to be not so precious with your work that you're afraid to touch it, and you also have to have a workflow that's set up that you can make these changes, and you can make these changes quickly and without a lot of stress to yourself. So what I did was, can I move this? Because it's locked. There we go. So what I do if I want to, so my animation looks sort of like this. Not like that. Something like this. Up and down. Very simply. In fact, that's exactly what it did. Look at that. Re-engineering. It's fine, right? Kind of fun. It's got some good energy to it. But I kind of thought like it just was very mechanical. Oh, Robin, I did have show grease pencil under the show menu on. Still didn't work. But thank you for the suggestion. But it just felt kind of a yeah, mechanical, robotic, or whatever. Just didn't really have enough going on there. So what I do is I organize my animation so I can make really quick, fairly complicated edits as quickly as possible. And part of that comes from having worked as a traditional animator. All you have is drawings, and if you need to insert something different in your animation, well, you can kind of bookend them with their drawings, so it's easy to see where your bookends are, and then you can just move them apart. So you just can But with Maya, because it can get so complicated and convoluted, sliding keys around can make a huge mess. You all know this. So it's really important to think of your poses, your key poses as key poses. So what I do is I'll go, if I have something like this and I want to insert some stuff, some more time or whatever, or I want to make some edits to it, I go to 2 poses and I just lay down, I just make sure everything's keyed on both characters. I lock that down, and then I can stretch this stuff out again. So then I can grab all this stuff and I can stretch it out. And give myself some time to make some changes. And so once I do that, I haven't damaged anything before, and I haven't damaged anything after. I've just inserted some time, and I'm able to play around with that and within that. And at that point, I don't need to move beyond any of this stuff because I'm all protected. And so basically now I have 3 sections of animation. I have the beginning, and then I have this new middle, and then I have the end, which is times. So as soon as I did that, you'll notice everything got like Matrix. And that's fine. It's a little unsettling when you're sort of new to animation and things don't look right and you're not sure what to do about it. But the more you just dig in and do it, and one of the sooner you'll develop some strategies to deal with things that look weird. It always looks weird. And one of the best things about getting some experience and practicing animation is the stuff that looks weird doesn't look weird anymore. I mean, it still looks weird, but you know why it looks weird, and you can sort of see through it, if that makes sense. Kind of like, I don't know how to make an analogy without sounding like I'm super full of myself. Wow, what the hell, I'm just super full of myself. But no, it's kind of like how like a sculptor will like look at a rock and see, like they can kind of see around. They look, what do they say, like Michelangelo? This is where I start to compare myself to Michelangelo, which I think is fair. Really fair. We're both Italian. I mean, I'm Norwegian, but it's the same. But he would spend a bulk of his time looking at the shape of a rock that he's going to. Meredith! Nice. So as you thanks, Kirsty. I knew you'd get it. As you get more experience with your animation, you're able to sort of see things that aren't there yet. So when you're first animating, you're kind of driving at night with your headlights off, head out the window, trying to sort of find your way through it. And then the more you sort of go, the more your headlights come on, and you still don't know where you're going, but at least you can see the path. That's probably a better analogy. Anyway, So once I get into this section and I see like now we have this slowdown, I look at her first and I make sure I can hide him. So then I'll just look at what her animation is doing, because hers is broader, simpler, and I'm not going to get any timing texture out of her. I mean, a little bit. You can see like when she does the initial pull, that's happening. Figure out which way this camera goes. That's happening a lot faster. You get like a nice little pull, and then it juxtaposes with the contrast with the glide. But and then the other parts I get some timing texture out of is her feet. Yeah, those feet are moving. This is an important thing about feet. If you want to get some easy texture for your timing, the feet's the place to get them. So many student reels I see, the feet are planted and the character's like talking, but the feet are just stuck there. So to get, and if you watch people talking or conversing, same thing, or doing whatever, waiting for a hamburger, but their feet shift. People's feet shift, and they shift very quickly. These little short little swirls on a freeway. Like, you don't want to do too much, obviously, or else it's weird. But our feet move, and having little tiny like 3 or 4 frame darts to the foot, that's a wonderful way. And you can see it here. It's a wonderful way to add some texture to your timing. So I look at her and say, she's great. I don't need to do anything with her. So let's then move over to our man Tom here. I play blast a lot. I set my hotkey 0 for play blast because I play blast a lot when I'm working in Maya, just so I can see things real time. And it also sometimes, as I'm animated and I'm starting to get my head scattered, play blast and taking a brief breather really helps me to leave and sort of come back. So the play blast thing, I can kind of look away for a second, then come back and look at it and have a fresh shot. I'm talking to my microphone. Just quickly, one of the things I wanted to add in here when I first stretched it out, one of the reasons I wanted to stretch it out was because I was looking for that. I was looking for some kind of a character trait in this SmackDown, and one of the things I wanted to add was my character here looking down. Because I'm from Canada, and I've slipped on ice a lot. I know that when you slip on ice and you're falling, your head just darts down. You want to see where you're going to end up. So I wanted to get that in there, which I didn't think to do the first time. He just was like, I was just doing straight overlap. He just going smack, smack. And I was just keeping those C curves, which is the right thing to do. But then as I started to expand on it, I wanted to get him to look down. And I think it's really funny that he's falling. And I think it's funny that he actually takes a look to see like that simple look. There's a lot to it. There's like when you look to see where you're going to fall, it's kind of an admission or capitulation, or you just surrender to the fact that this is actually going to happen. So you're just looking to see like how badly is this going to hurt, because I'm over I'm too far gone to deny it. And then from here, I just go in and just straight ahead the flailing. And I honestly don't really know how I'm going to do the flailing. But I know if I just sit and think about it, I'm never going to do it. So I'll just grab one of the extremities, likely the hand that's closest to the camera, and I'll just start there. And I just start digging through it. I think I'm probably using IK hands because I almost always do. Anytime there's I get asked the question a lot, do you prefer FK or IK hands? And I say yes. I prefer FK hands if there's something very, very simple like a walk cycle, run cycle, or something like that. Problem with FK hands for me is that it's FK, so the bone chain originates, the movement of the bone chain originates at the root. So anything that you move, including the COG, all the way up to all the controllers in the chest and the shoulders, it all moves where the hand is placed. And I like to place the hand where I want to place the hand when I have control. People say, well, but Mark, what about if it sticks? So, well, it doesn't stick. You animate it properly. But when I have a character like this, where their hands are out and they're sort of scrambling, I don't want all these controllers manipulating what my hand's doing. I want to just have control of it right here. I can move the shoulder to wherever their arm is. It doesn't matter. I don't want any influence on that hand other than just where that hand, especially if it's out and flopping around. So I'll use IK arms. Plus, he's going to land on the ground, and his hands are going to smack down on the ground, and I'm going to want to use IK arms for that because I want to have contact with the ground. I don't want to. In full disclosure, it took me a while to get comfortable using IK arms all the time, but once I did, I was happy for it. The other reason being is that I don't have to switch FK to IK ever. I don't want to. So if I have a character who's talking and then they put their hands on the table, just have them talking in IK. I don't have to switch. Switching from FK to IK and back and forth, never like that. Okay, so now I'm just going to zoom in my timeline, and I'm going to just make a mess of things. So I know where my hand is starting. I know where it's ending. I like this key on 27. Let's go. Trying to find a good out point. You can get rid of 23. So there's 10 frames. So here, I know I want to get that hand out of his face. I should be animating to a camera, which I have over here in my perspective one, or I did. I screwed it up. See if I can get it. Come on, view change. Ooh. I'm going to tear off my camera view. I'm going to turn off NURBS curves. And got some anomaly with the evaluation mode that's giving me no pants. But that's okay, I don't need pants. And so now I can see what my camera view is at all times, and then I can go back into my perspective view. Now I have two screens, and so typically this would be on my other screen, but you guys couldn't see it. And I don't want to have all the fun. Now, I want to keep his hand out of his face. You can see in the original here, way back when, oops, his hand is, I think it stays out of the way. Yeah. Crosses over very, very briefly there. See that? It's actually a very simple move. Funny how it looks really manic, but it's actually a very simple move. The feet, too, are fairly simple. A simple man. It looks like it crossed. Looks like what I did here is I crossed it over. Brought it down. Never do the same thing twice, which is perfectly fine. Clavicle back. And I'm also thinking about, obviously I'm thinking about the arcs, and you can see it kind of goes linear right here. See how it goes so linear? I'm looking right now at the wrist. Goes straight across. I know we talk about moving in arcs, and arcs are wonderful. Hey, Cameron, it's good to see you. Welcome. Arcs, of course, are very, very important, but sometimes it's okay to go a little linear on stuff. It'll sometimes, especially something like somebody panicking, sometimes a linear path of action will sort of add kind of a weird edge to your animation. I mean, it's not without an arc. There's still an arc going through there, but you can see it's not actually that refined, or it's not actually that broad. Boom. And this, again, the challenging thing too is this arm might not work well until the other arm is in there. So I've learned that I don't need to spend a ton of time on something that I'm not really sure is going to work anyhow. So I try to just go in here and bust it out as quickly as possible. And without, like I said, without necessarily knowing what it is I'm trying to do. Well, I know what I'm trying to do. I'm not necessarily sure on how to execute it, and then do it in front of an audience. It poses a whole other set of challenges. I'm not scared of you guys. Here I am, just quietly animating, behaving myself, and then you guys come along and make me nervous. Rude. Oh yeah, that's pretty good. Move down. Let's look at the translation Y. Yes. Sensei. I don't mind being called a sensei. Oh, there's nothing wrong with that, is there? There we go. Cleaning things out. Making noises. I'm going to delete frame 24 all across on the hands. There we go. So we can sort of drag up again. So I'm kind of getting this thing coming across. There we go. Kind of like getting some overlap on that hand. Get that elbow down. That looks like Frank Zappa. Get this pose here on 23 closer. Ooh. Sometimes I don't mind letting Maya do some of the work. Up here, what's that gonna look? Be kind of cool, actually. You guys ever notice that they put the letter R, give the letter R on your hotkeys to scale and not rotation? That's pretty fast with that hand. That's okay. Does a little loop. It's all right. I'd probably leave it at that for now and then go in and attack the other hand. And then, you know, it's kind of a back and forth, get them working. You can see it's not actually very, what would you call it? Not actually very complex the way I have it. Just enough to make it feel like he's out of control, but it also moves pleasantly across the screen. Yeah, not impeccable. Who can tell me what this is? Nobody. Um, pretty much does it, I think, for today. This is super fun, you guys. It's sugar. Starburst. It is a strawberry starburst! Meredith, you brought it all together. We need buzzers. Does anybody have any questions or any thoughts? Or is there anything that any of you would like to see that you haven't so far seen? You're welcome, Victor. It was my pleasure. It was great to see everyone. What a nice way to spend the morning. Friday morning? Do a lot worse. Sean, what would you it was nice to see you again too, Mirko. I remember you very, very well. Please come back. Meredith, you struggle a lot with the IK-FK blend. Yeah. I don't deal with it. That's why I just animate in is there a way to adjust this so I don't look like I'm looking up all the time? Guess not. Yeah, I don't deal with IK-FK. I just animate mostly with IK arms. Cameron. Oh, thanks, Sean. I'm having a lovely. I know what I could do. Out over here. There, that way. What can I do? We could turn this into. You want to turn this into a Q&A session? Oh, hey, Redmond. It's good to see you. We could. I wonder if there's a way that. You know what would be a cool idea is that every week somebody submits a shot and I dig through it and I just rip it to shreds. Your teacher told you that you should never break your tangents. Is that true, Cameron? No. No, I wouldn't say that's true. In fact, see, now you've drawn me back in again. In fact, if you look here, there I am. If we look at like the COG here, as it's getting thrust to the ground, I need an impact. So you'll notice, oh, I haven't broken my tangents here. I have somewhere. Have I not broken my tangents on any of this stuff? That's weird. What about Mary? Must be broken tangents here. I break them all the damn time. That's very odd. So typically what I do, though, I don't know why I didn't here. I'm a little concerned. Because this is an impact. Crashing to the ground. Oh, it's hanging. And you can see he's driving her, actually. Because there's an impact and he's crashing to the ground, typically what I would do is this. I would select this curve, break it, and then lift it up. And then this one. I'm not sure why I didn't on this one. I'm surprised at myself. And this one. And that just gives us impact. Yeah. So no, I break my tangents all the time. I would say that, and this isn't anything against your teacher. I'm sure she or he is wonderful. But I would say have a good day. I would say in animation you should probably never say never about anything. Because they're all tools that are there and you want to utilize all of them. But you want at least open to utilize. Yeah. So I know I'd probably say never do. I think probably I say never pick up your MacBook Pro and throw it off a bridge. But even that seems like a reasonable thing to do. So yeah. Look at this. What I found. It's a ink pad. Just sitting here on my desk. I have no idea where it came from. Oh, I know where it came from. My daughter bought a Harriet Tubman stamp to stamp all her $20 bills. And then she did. She stamped them. Yeah, stamped them. I'm not looking through $20 bills. Anyway, because I don't have it. Any other questions? Thoughts? They still cashed the $20 bills. We could still pass them. Nobody complained about them. Weird. Okay, well, thanks everyone. It was wonderful to see you all. I hope you all have a wonderful weekend. Oh, what she did for impact was that she chose weighted tangents and selected both the handles and squeezed them to the inside, and that gave it the V shape. Yeah, you could do that too. I think for that though, it's kind of harder to control the curve that the tangent is. But yeah, I'm not sure what her reasoning is for not breaking it. Maybe it's a good reason. I know that when I worked at a studio, when we used weighted tangents, and we shaped them, we pulled them. All right, Sean, it's good to see you. The problem was when we baked the animation out, the pipeline didn't support weighted tangents, and so it would snap them all back. So you'd get your animation approved, and then you'd bake it out and go into lighting, and the next time you saw it in dailies and lighting dailies, you'd be like, that's not my animation. All of your tangents. So I just got out. That's when I got out of the habit of using weighted tangents. Again, weighted tangents are perfectly fine, and I used to use them all the time. Stretch them and pull them, and I just stopped, and I don't use them anymore. And I think I end up setting more keys. In fact, I know I end up setting more keys, but that's just the way I roll. And it didn't slow me down any that I know of. I guess what I know doesn't seem. Yeah. There you guys are. See? What's the difference between weighted and non-weighted? That's a great question. I don't know why I keep turning my Maya off. That's a great question. Just keep the Maya up. So this is a non-weighted tangent, which means all I can do is lift it up and down. Do it that way, but if I was to convert it, this is non-weighted. If I convert it to a weighted tangent, I just have more abilities with it, more versatile. I can stretch out my curve. I can shape my curve with a weighted tangent. The reason why I got away from weighted tangents, other than the fact that the pipeline I was working at didn't support it, was I'd find myself doing things like stretching things out a bit, that. And then if I had to change my timing, then I'd get these weird things. And I just found that it was easier for me to just work off the screen and set more keys. And then the way I sort of animate or sort of manage my workflow is, again, with the book hands, I'm like a keys, and then I can sections where I just straight ahead in the middle. And then my animation shots, assignments, whatever you want to call them, are typically, if I got 200 frames, it's typically broke into like, 4 50 frame pieces, 5 40 frame pieces of animation. that are very distinctly bookended. So I compartmentalize my animation into sections that I can work through. And that way I can get more into that next time. We'll do some workflow stuff next time. Yeah? Sounds like a great idea. All right, that's me. I gotta roll. I gotta jump right into a 3-hour long animation class. Can you believe that? But I'll be back next week, same time. I hope you're all there. I had a really, really great time. What kind of a demo reel I need to get into a game studio like Ubisoft? What you should do, Cameron, is go through YouTube and Google animation game demo reels and see what people are doing. A lot of really fast action stuff, typically what it is. Smashes, crashes, jumps, kicks, punches. That's great to see you guys. Mirko, so good to see you after all these years. Have a wonderful weekend.